Thank you.
Cool.
Welcome, Eric.
Ed, thank you for the great introduction. Appreciate everybody's time here today. And like I said, don't want to bore anybody here, so if you have any questions in the moment, by all means speak up right then and there and keep it kind of informal. Hopefully it shouldn't take up too much of your time, but definitely want to do, as Ed here talked about, some education on how coatings and roof coatings in particular here can help protect your historic buildings here in beautiful Winchester. We're going to talk mostly about roof coatings, but I do have a little bit at the end about the versatility, how Elastomeric coatings can help you guys protect buildings in general, anywhere from wood restoration to floor coatings to so on and so forth. But we'll talk primarily about that here today. So it's going to advance things here for me because my clicker's batteries were a little corroded here this morning. So to kind of give you a brief background on who we are, it gave us that overall introduction, which was great. But Acrymax, our parent company, was founded. Acrymax was founded by my grandfather, Carl Bennung, back in the early 1950s, and we really specialized as an engineered coatings company. So somebody would come to my grandfather with a problem and said, "Hey, can you solve this with your coating? Can it be this long, have this much elongation, adhere to this surface, do this in this type of capacity?" And he would go off to his lab and engineer and formulate that coating to meet that specific end-use application, whether that be for somebody in the architectural world or whether that be somebody like General Electric for, like I said, right now we've done some specs for the Trident submarines, as well as worked with NASA. Those have been some neat projects that we've been able to work on. In the early 1990s, my dad actually founded Preservation Products and took basically all the flexible protective coatings that we were working with here to try and protect historic and vintage buildings. My grandparents had an old Victorian down in Cape May, New Jersey, down in the Jersey Shore, and they were struggling with keeping the building watertight, metal roofs and all that stuff. And again, early 90s, my dad was up there on the roof, basically doing the work himself with some of the coatings that we had, and looked out over Cape May and goes, "Man, there's a lot of other buildings that have this same problem. Maybe we can take these coatings and do this type of side of things." So lo and behold, that's where Preservation Products was born. And it took off a little slow, but then in early 1996, we were featured on This Old House in the Savannah project. So you'll see, if you look at some of the old This Old House shows, you'll see back then, every once in a while they still air it. And then there's a newer one that they did in 2006 where they did a wall coatings project up in East Boston. They also did a deck project up there as well that we'll talk a little bit about. And again, we've done lots of very cool, unique, historic projects, worked with the National Park Service on everything from Fort Sumter to the Arlington House at Lee Mansion and the Arlington National Cemetery, to last year we were working on FDR's home up in Hyde Park. So a lot of very unique, cool projects, and those are the enjoyable ones as far as I'm concerned to be able to work on. While I do enjoy seeing like a couple 100,000 square foot metal roof that's under a warehouse and all that kind of stuff, these are the ones that are really enjoyable. I love coming out and talking to people such as yourself here today. Because we really do try and abide by that tagline that we have, is that we try to protect America's heritage, and we're really doing it one landmark at a time. So that can kind of go on from here. So again, types of metal roofing, or types of roofing that you'll see on historic buildings. It can be anywhere from what you see up there on the top left-hand side, lots of metal, whether it be flat seams, shingled, to where you get into some of the flat roofing that you'll see, whether that be asphalt or other types, so like you see down here on the right-hand side, where you see it is a plywood roof. You can have tile, wood shake, so on and so forth. The primary ones that we'll be talking about here today, where the roof coatings are most applicable, not to say that they couldn't be used in some of these other places, but the most applicable places are going to be on the metal, as well as on the flat surfaces, whether it be asphalt, rubber, and so on and so forth. We can and have done some things on wood, shake, tile, slate. Generally, we're getting a little bit more involved in those projects. We don't have a stock system that we're going to go, okay, here's our installation guideline, go from here. We're going to get, hey, if you have a roof like that or a project like that, you may send us pictures. We may give you a little bit more instruction on how to use our products there. Some of the overall problems that we're seeing on these roofs, of course, leaks are a big concern. You don't want to have any leaks in your building by any stretch of the imagination. And that's where a big part of what we do, a lot of the calls that we receive is I've got a leak in this metal roof and I'm trying to locate it, trying to find it, trying to get it to stop. Other things that you'll see on metal roofing, of course, is corrosion. And you may see coating failure too, like you see down here where you're losing materials off of there. And the last piece, this is kind of indiscriminate of whether you're on metal or otherwise, you're going to see oxidation, aging, and that's where paints and coatings can really be the skin to your building if you rejuvenate it over time and protect that. So what's the major problem that we see, at least from Acrymax's perspective? The world is such a dynamic place. It's constantly active, moving back and forth. And the big thing that I like to liken this to is thermal shock and how a building's going to move. So metal roof like we have in the building that we're in here today that's painted red. In the heat of the summertime, I can get up to 150, 175 degrees Fahrenheit real quickly by noon or if not later. Afternoon thunderstorm rolls through at 2 o'clock while it's still at its peak temperature, drops maybe 65-degree water on that metal roof. And in some situations, you can actually hear that building contracting, especially in older buildings like this, because the temperature change, it drops maybe 100 degrees in a matter of minutes. And if you don't have a paint or a coating or a material that can keep up with that, metal certainly can, but the material that's on the outside is what we're concerned about here today. You're going to have failure pretty dramatically, and it can happen instantaneously or it can happen over time. Again, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, your roof and building and exterior of everything is the first line of defense against the elements. If you aren't protecting it, it's going to be a problem over time. So our solution, and you can kind of see it in here, but on the table here, there are a couple samples of our coating, and I'll pass this one around. This is an elastomeric coating system, and you can see right here the before and then the after, where we have one of our coatings in an Instron back at our lab, and basically we have clamped that between two pieces and we're extending it, and you can see this product is going to expand, and then if I release that, it's going to go back to its original side of things. So flexible protective coatings are our solution to this dynamic world in which we live.
How many coats on that?
So this is probably a couple coats on there. It's designed to show 2 coats. Okay. And when we make that in our lab, we try and get it close to what 2 coats would look like in the field. It probably takes us a few more tries to do that in the lab to get that exactly down. But we measure that thickness, and that's probably around 25 or 30 mils thick there. That you would, in theory, in the field, be able to achieve in 2 coats. Most of the time we talk, the minimum system that we will do is 2 coats. But when I talk to people about how they apply these coatings, and we'll get into this a little bit, is I don't really care about number of coats. You could take that coating and apply it, and we usually recommend a gallon per every 100 square feet. But if somebody that was to apply it, whether that be yourself or whether that be a contractor, were to apply it at 200 square feet per gallon, they're essentially applying half of what we recommend. So to do what we would recommend, they would need to do essentially 4 coats at that time frame. So I don't really care about number of coats, I care about how much ended up on that surface. And unlike other paints that are out there basically any other paints, asphalts, most materials, when they get thicker, they get brittle. Our coatings, as they get thicker, they get better in terms of their performance properties. And actually, I think the next slide will tell us a little bit more about that. Actually, not this one, but the next one I'll talk more about this. So this is perfect. So again, most of what we're going to be talking about here today, and then you'll see it in our name, it says Acrymax Technologies. We're a big believer in acrylic technologies, and specifically within acrylics, we talk about 100% acrylic technologies, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But to give you a brief background of history of acrylics, I mean, they were originally started to look into this back in the early 1930s, right before World War II. German chemist Otto Röhm invented and patented plexiglass. That's really what we know as the use of MMA or methyl methacrylate. And then from there, acrylic technologies became commercially available in paints and coatings, but they're mostly solvent-based technologies. And again, that's kind of when Acrymax was founded. So before the acrylics, we also dealt with flexible materials, but most of the time we were dealing in solvent-based technologies of neoprene and hypalon. Once we reached the late 70s, we saw the writing on the wall with the Clean Air Act and other regulations that solvent-based coatings were going to be kind of dinosaurs, and there's still some out there to this day, but you'll see there's a lot less now, and VOCs are being continuously driven lower. So we really made a transition there in the late 70s to move from the solvent-based technologies that we had of yesteryear into the elastomeric coatings technologies that we use here today. So it kind of gives you a brief background of where those are. And again, we'll talk a little bit about the acrylic side of things here as we go into, or 100% acrylic as we go into the next slide. Yep.
So is there no VOC?
No, so all of our products are designed to meet California's regulations for VOC emissions. So California is the most stringent, in particular the Southern Coastal Air Quality Management District, which is around LA. They kind of lead the charge in any type of VOC regulations that are out there. For example, for our industry, and roof coatings in particular, the maximum that you can have on a federal basis is 250 grams per liter. Down in Southern California, it needs to be below 50 grams per liter. Our products are formulated somewhere in the 40s, so we're definitely below that range. And VOC is what are that? They're volatile organic compounds. So what happens there is basically they're materials that you put into the paint to help it dry. And in interior paints, you can probably force that to 0 VOCs. You'll see Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, other people of that nature touting 0 VOC technologies. There's some other things they do to get to that point, and if you have any questions about that, I can certainly answer. I could go on a diatribe for that for the next hour, but we'll get back to this a little bit. But anyway, when you put it in the exterior environment, you need them in there to help your coating dry properly and apply properly. It gives you that wet edge of the coating that you guys may be familiar with painting with. And I don't think we'll ever get to 0 VOCs exteriorly, but we'll certainly continue to drive it. I think we can probably get below 30, maybe down to 25. But in all honesty, paint and coating manufacturers are doing their part. I'd like to see a lot more work out of the auto industry and other industries out there that are not doing their part, in my opinion, to drive their emission standards lower. But VOCs basically react in the atmosphere to create smog. So in most areas, you're not as concerned about that as they are in Southern California just because of their geography and how it traps all the smog right against the coast right there. So that's why they have that little bit of a differential in terms of the regulations. So this is a slide I thought we were getting to. So elastomeric roof coatings, why 100% acrylic? So 100% acrylic, there's lots of acrylics that can be out there. You can have 100% acrylic, and basically it's all the proper resins that are in there. You can have other things, and people say, oh, I've got an acrylic coating, but it may be vinyl acrylic, maybe styrinated acrylic, maybe other mixtures of polymers within there to get and call it an acrylic. And the acrylic component is very weatherable, but those other polymers, for example, they use styrinated. It's like they take basically the styrofoam cup side of things and they take that polymer and mix that within their acrylic side of things. It helps them on a cost standpoint, but then it hurts them in the performance aspect, and we'll talk a little bit about here. So the 100% acrylic. Acrylics are exceptionally weatherable. They have great tensile strength, good in terms of mildew resistance, but the big part of this, and this is why I wanted to stress getting back to that dynamic world in which we live, is the flexibility. So a couple things within flexibility that I like to talk about here. And basically it's low temperature flexibility and long-term flexibility. So again, if I go back to this piece right here, or better yet, if you guys think of a rubber band, I take that rubber band out of its packaging here today at room temperature, I expand and contract it, it moves back and forth, this is great. I take that same rubber band and I put it in, or this piece of coating right here, and I put it into a freezer, it's going to have a lower degree of flexibility. There's going to be, and if I take that same rubber band and hit it with some liquid nitrogen or something that's going to freeze the thing, at some point, some temperature, whether that be 0 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe that's minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe that's lower, there's going to be a temperature at which that rubber band or this coating breaks brittle like glass. That material, or that temperature is called the glass transition temperature. Rubber bands are generally going to be pretty high, comparatively speaking to these coatings. Our materials stay flexible down to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so they're going to be very, very flexible over a wide degree of temperatures. So whether you have a very bad winter or whether you have a good winter, you're going to have a product that's going to be flexible over time. The other side of that is long-term flexibility, and this is again gets back to that binder type. 100% acrylics are going to contain their flexibility for a long period of time as they age. They're essentially what we like to call internally plasticized. So there's no exterior materials put in there to keep them flexible. Other materials, whether it be styrene acrylic, vinyl acrylics, because the other polymers that are in there, like the styrenes, the vinyls, so on and so forth, are not as weatherable, they break down over time, and then that polymer, that rubber band, loses its flexibility. So again, take that rubber band out of its packaging day one, very expansive, contracted, put it on the shelf, better yet, put it in direct sunlight, and it'll start to break down over time. That's because that UV really starts to degrade that material. And again, they put other exterior materials in there, like plasticizers, and that's one of the things that people are starting to raise concerns from a health component as well. None of our products have exterior plasticizers to keep them flexible. So, and again, you can take a look at, that was one of our data sheets over there. It's a little blurry here because of the side of things, but we can certainly go over any of those specific physical properties to show you why we try and formulate coatings the way that we do. So enough about all the science side of things. Let's talk about where can we use these coatings and how can they be effective to help people such as yourself.
Eric, question. So yeah. Is there an opposite to the glass temperature ones from the heat perspective?
No, there's not. So once it gets to a point that there is a temperature at which things will burn essentially.
But will they get gooey? Like, will this get gooey when it reaches?
No, so once they are what we like to call, I always get this confused, thermosets. So once it dries, yeah, it sets, and it's not a thermoplastic. There are materials out there, and a lot of this was on older historic roofs, coal tar roofing, if you're familiar with that. Coal tar roofing is a great type of roof. It's actually self-healing, because as it heats up, it gets melty and kind of flows back into where all the crevices of where it was. So it was used a lot on flat roofing. Coal tar is a nasty animal from another perspective, but it was great for roofing because it would meld itself back together. That's more of a thermoplastic, where it becomes more plastic-like and flows at those kinds of things. These are going to be thermosets, where once they are done, they're not going to re-dissolve by water. They're not going to basically come back to re-go into a liquid form. So,
certain kinds of sheet roofings that were having problems with birds liking it.
Yeah,
and they were getting pecked by birds, and thought balls being driven into them. So, how does?
Yeah, I mean that's where. So we talked a lot about elongation, but the balance to elongation is tensile strength. So. And I could get more into that side of things, but basically we have to balance that. We could have a great, very elongation project that'd be almost like silly putty back and forth, but then it had no tensile strength. It'd be able to be packed as you're talking about there. So we have to balance elongation with tensile strength to be able to get to a final coating that we would feel comfortable selling out there in the industry. Generally, we would like to be that around 200 PSI at a minimum. Some of ours, that's again the minimum products we have there, and then we have some of our premium products that are going to far exceed that. But yeah, you generally, there's still the potential that some bird somewhere could attack some coating system out there for sure. But yeah, ours are pretty resistant in terms of that side of things, and we'll even take foot traffic, as you'll see here in the rest of the presentation. So,
can you
imagine? You're saying it's 25 to 30 mils thick?
Depends on the system. The minimum that we're going to do is 15 mils, and then we'll step up to 45 or even 50 mils. So.
Without going into the technical aspects, have your products changed over the years? In other words, is your product today the same as it was 5 years ago?
Yes. So the resin...
The formulas are the same?
They've been updated to meet current regulations, but the basics of the formulation of our AF130, which is our primary base coating material, our workhorse polymer, has been the same since the late 1970s. So we've updated some things minorly here and there to get better in terms of environmental sides of things, but for all intents and purposes, it's basically the same formulation from there. And then we have our AF130 XT, which is a higher tensile strength material. We came out with that in the mid-90s, and that's basically been the same since then as well. We work very closely with our industry partners, so we work with Arkema, which do the Kynar side of things, but also Dow Chemical, formerly Roman Haas. We have not changed suppliers since then because we have such a great track record of working with people such like that. Although right now they're being a little bit problematic in terms of getting us material to be able to fulfill orders, but that's neither here nor there. And you were saying, sorry.
When I had a new roof put on in 2011,
Uh-huh.
they said that it was guaranteed for life, meaning maybe about 30 years.
Okay.
And but they said it depended on the foot traffic,
Okay.
and so that you should not permit people unless absolutely necessary to go up and clamber over your roof. Is that a routine thing that is applicable to all kinds of surfaces?
Yes. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple different ways. One, and I recommend that everybody that's going to be doing stuff with us when we do a system is look at the warranty side of things. And there's some companies out there doing some things with warranties that I would just be careful about what somebody's told you. Read through that information. Some people will say lifetime, and it goes, well, whose lifetime? Like the lifetime of the building, lifetime of the contractor that gave it to you, lifetime. It can be very disconcerting there in that avenue. But you said you put down a brand new metal roof, and so that's one side of it. So I'm not sure exactly what they've told you entirely there, but the brand new metal roof, and you mentioned baked on earlier in the conversation.
Yes, it would be comparable to a finish in a car.
Okay. So, and that's a perfect example. So if you can think about your car with the metal that's on there, you got a relatively, they do that in a very controlled environment. There's a lot of different ways they do there, but they have very thin coatings because they're trying to maximize how much they're doing there. And the coatings that are going to be on a car or your metal roof are probably going to be somewhere around anywhere from a mil up to max, I would say 5 mils thick. A mil, for lack of a better description, is about the size of a human hair. Our coating systems for these elastomeric acrylics that we're talking about, that for walking traffic and stuff like that, the minimum that we want to install is 15. So it's 3 times the size of that. Not to say that the 5 mils that they're applying is bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just probably not going to stand up to somebody's foot traffic on a regular basis. What you would probably notice from foot traffic is probably somebody going up there and they may have a little bit of sand or dirt or something like that on their shoes, and they may scratch that surface. And it's very easy to scratch a 5 mil coating system versus something like ours that's a little bit thicker. And once you scratch it, now you've exposed probably that underlying metal, or you've at least damaged the coating that's on there. And then there may be scratches in there that now start to rust and start to accelerate that aging process from that would have, like I said, sat on a panel in a field by itself, never touched, is going to probably outstrip that 30 years that they've told you. It may be significantly reduced from there if it gets continuous type of traffic like that. And I've seen that on roofs, not so much residential ones, but I've seen that on metal roofs that are where people stage window washing off of for like commercial buildings, where because they'll send a guy up there and he's going up and walking on that metal roof on a regular basis, and he's a worker with work boots on that's trampling dirt, debris, all that kind of stuff up onto the surface. So I wouldn't be super concerned about it, but it's something that if they are doing it to clean gutters or something like that, have them go in a deliberate manner. Make sure, I mean, I've been on roofs where the contractor doesn't want me to walk on something afterwards and hands me protective booties. And I'm like, okay, it's our coating that's on there, I'm fine with that. That's fine. It's maybe a little bit overkill, but that would be my recommendation to you.
Yeah, elastomeric roof coatings roofs are inevitably victims of the air conditioning mechanics stepping on the screwdriver.
I hate that. They're the worst contractors in the world as far as I'm concerned.
Strength reference before is still very applicable.
Yes, you can still puncture the coatings if somebody were to drop a knife or put something on there. Like a screw, and then somebody else were to just come along and step on that, that could puncture any type of roofing membrane. And our coatings can get damaged. There's certainly things there. I've seen ones where there was a post office that we were working on down in southern Virginia, and I guess people were walking by throwing glass bottles up on the roof, and it broke through some of the membrane there. And to be honest with you, I mean, that was a 25,000 square foot roof that it probably took, when they did the system, at least 1,000 gallons to do the material. It took 5 gallons of paint to fix it. So it's very repairable, very maintainable. We've had projects where on a residential basis, a tree or something like a hailstorm or something like that falls on the surface, and you're able to repair it fairly easily. Again, it depends on the extent of the damage, but the coating systems are very repairable and very maintainable, and we'll talk a little bit about the maintenance of these systems as we go forward into the presentation here. So actually, can we back up just a second? Because I think I just want to see, make sure I covered everything. So again, we talked a lot about a lot of different systems here. So we can do complete systems, large and small. The one on the left there is basically a small little outbuilding, whereas the one on the right, that's a large commercial building that's probably 500,000 square feet. One of the largest ones that was done with Acrymax, and that was done about 10 years ago. They've recoated that northern building that you see there. And then the southern building, they have yet to recoat, and they've let it go out of warranty, but it's still not leaking. And then these again show a couple different small repair type projects, and again, we'll go from there into the next slide.
So, you said before that this is a field applied application.
Yes.
So when you have a big flat roof, say, how do you do that? You will have to lay down the fabric first, and then.
So when they do like that one there, that was Sharp Electronics up in Mahwah, New Jersey. That was their main distribution here. If you're familiar with the area, it's right when you get on the New York State Thruway. And when they did that system, they laid down the base coating, and they laid that down with actually power rollers and everything. Laid that down, rolled the fabric out into that white coating, and then formed the saturated that over top there. They did that across that entire roof, and it took a couple guys. I mean, they had a good crew on that project, but they made good time. I mean, once you get a couple guys on the project, they can do 10,000 square feet in a day. So they have two different crews working like they did. They really made some sides of that to do the base membrane. Once they got to the finish coating, they were spraying that finish coating, and they were spraying upwards of 30,000 square feet a day on that roof. Because once you get the base material and the base membrane down, you can spray the finish coats. And you can do that on a smaller scale residential project where you can brush roll or spray the products. So in terms of the different projects that we work on and different colors that we have here, there's actually I think a color chart floating around here somewhere. But I've showed you guys this white coating here. The little samples that are on the table for everybody here are Barn Red, which is one of our more popular colors for the historic preservation side of things. But for a flat roof that nobody's going to see, aesthetically, because aesthetically I'm not a big fan of white, but some people are, but from a reflectivity standpoint on a flat roof, white is probably your best bet. A couple of reasons why. One, it decreases the overall amount of expansion and contraction that roof's going to go through. But two, most of these older roofs and older buildings, I'm not sure about this one, don't have a whole lot of insulation left in them, or to begin with. So basically in those avenues, you're able to reduce the overall heating demand and cooling demand, or not heating demand, cooling demand on the building. You still may actually increase your heating demand at off-peak times, but there's a lot of reasons to say why cooling is always going to cost you more than heating. The biggest reason is that heating or cooling comes from electricity, which is way more expensive than any other type of fuel source that's out there. So the graph up there, and again, it's tough to see with the way this came through, but that's roof surface temperatures in a black versus white environment, and just outside of Philadelphia in Springhouse, Pennsylvania. Some work that we did with Roman Haas and Dow, or I guess it was Roman Haas back in the day. The top one you can kind of see there is a black uncoated shingle, and the graph on the left-hand side basically shows the temperature, and then the other one's the time of day. So it peaks up there at around 175 degrees. During right around 2 o'clock, I believe, in the afternoon. Whereas the air temperature is the one that's shown there in the red, and then the blue one is the white coated shingle. So you can see how it mimics the air temperature much more so than the black one. You also, I'm not sure, most residential sides of things are not subject to peak demand load, but for commercial clients, they're very keen to that side of things, because they're going to pay a premium for electricity from around noon till about 5 in the afternoon.
Would a high gloss black roof have the same temperature as a low gloss black roof?
The gloss is actually, that's not going to affect here. It's not going to affect temperature one way or another. It maybe a degree or two one way or another, but gloss, when you're reflecting gloss, you're actually more reflecting, I forget what wavelength that's going to be coming off of there. But what we're concerned about in terms of reflectivity is IR. So when you walk outside and you see all the colors that are outside, green, blues, whatnot, that's visible spectrum. That's what gives us the color. Gloss, I forget what that is. I think that's partly visible spectrum that's coming back and hitting you in the eyes. But the wavelengths that we're talking about are about the infrared side of things. So when you walk outside and you feel it, a hot sun coming down on you, that's what we're talking about in terms of elongation, or wavelength reflection. So, in terms of other sustainability components that I like to talk about is durability. Historic preservation in and of itself is the most pure form of sustainability in my opinion. You're taking an old building and you're extending its life. There's nothing better and more green than doing that. But durability goes hand in hand with that. And you guys consider initial versus life cycle costs. I always like to show these two different coating systems. I can't tell you how many times I see pictures like I do on the left-hand side, just an unrecoverable coating system. It's chipping, cracking, failing, peeling off the surface, whereas a sustainable coating system that you see over here, and I'll talk a little bit more about MAC Physic Estate here in the next little bit, but that project was done in 1996 originally with our full fabric system. It was just recoated within the last 2 years. They took our 10-year system and pushed it nearly 20 years. And all they did at that time frame to recoat it was power wash it and put down one refresher coat. They didn't have to scrape, peel, do anything there to get that roof prepared for that side of things. They did the great system there initially and was able to push it much more beyond what we even told them that they could get out of it. So, very sustainable coating system.
Are you saying that roof on the left, that's just got to be junked and replaced?
No, I'm saying that that's an unrecoverable coating system. The metal on it is probably in salvageable condition, but to get that to a point where I can paint it, you've got a lot of labor that is going to go into that aspect of scraping and bringing all of that type of surface off. Over here, the sustainable coating system, that coating is in such good shape because over time, all they're going to need to do is power wash it to clean off the atmospheric dirt debris, and then put down one refresher coat to go from there.
But your system
Yes.
you used on the one to the left because you're so flexible, and do you go over bad spots as opposed to have to be attached to it?
Our coatings can do a lot, but they're not a substitute for good prep. You really want to make sure you get the surface to a point where there's nothing chipping or flaking off the surface. Right. Do I need to take off everything that's on that surface? No, but you can see that the hard edges and everything, you definitely need to get that to a point where there's nothing chipping or flaking before you can use a coating system like ours.
Okay. So it can't break?
Yes and no. You really want to make sure you get stuff to the point where you're taking off a lot of those things. There are some situations where, with the fabric system, like there's one we did last year down at Acrymax Manor with the National Park Service, and they were stripping off this metal roof, and they were really concerned about damaging the underlying metal roof that's been there for 100 years. And they took off the stuff that was chipping, cracking, but there's still a lot of existing paint on there, and their concern, as well as mine, was if we just paint this and just use our HP3 system, which you'll see in a little bit here, there could be the potential for that paint that's on there, not our coating, but the paint that's on there over time to fail and come off the surface. So what we recommended doing there was fully reinforcing the entire, get as much of that off as you can without damaging the underlying metal. Then fully reinforce over top of that surface with our HP1 system, which is, you'll see on the sample here as well as in the presentation. And if, God forbid, there was an issue with that existing paint coming off a dime-sized area, that we're not going to have a dime-sized area of loss of coating, loss of system. Our coating system can bridge over top of that. So that's the yes and the no to your kind of answer there. So I always try and recommend really great prep, just because that's what you really want to have happen. But there is forgiveness within these coatings, and that's one of the reasons why we've been so successful in using them on historic standing seam and other metal roofs, as well as other surfaces too. So, is there another question over here?
You answered it.
Okay. Cool. So again, as simple as 1, 2, or 3. So basically you've got the full fabric systems versus the fully reinforced membranes, partially reinforced systems where we're going to be taking this and going over particular areas of concern, and then coatings only systems. And I'll delve into these here on the next couple slides a little bit more fully. So So again, this is the fully reinforced composite membrane system. So on the left-hand side, or in these packages, you'll see a couple of them. I'll pass this one around, but there's some more on the table there. Basically, we have a white polyester fabric. Gets to be a component of our overall system. And to install this on the roof surface, you're going to lay down the base coating onto the surface. This fabric comes in different size lengths and widths and rolls, and you roll that out into the wet coating, and then saturate over top of it with the same base material to create an overall membrane onto that surface. And basically that creates the overall initial intact membrane that's going to serve as your primary waterproofing across that roof surface.
Put in the coat of the material, then you put this fabric.
And then generally over top of that, for a 10-year style system here, we would do 2 finish coats over top of that in whatever color you're looking to do there. One of the reasons why we do the alternating of colors is a couple things. One, to help out the applicator, make sure that they're doing it right, that they're not missing any areas. But then 2, helping out the building owner such as yourself, or in this case Savannah College of Art and Design, that if they're ever to wear through that top finish coat from foot traffic, from erosion of purposes, you would see that underlying coating and you know that it would be time to recoat. The way these coating systems age is a slow erosion process, not a chipping, cracking, losing of physical properties. So if we were to slowly rejuvenate that finished coating by adding additional coats over time, we're going to extend the life of the system here. So,
Do you do over the seams?
Yes, so in a full fabric system like this, like on a standing seam or on a flat seam metal roof, it's pretty easy. We have big 40-inch wide fabrics and you can go across the entire side of things. On a standing seam metal roof like this, we have different cuts and rolls of the fabrics, but generally, and nothing's standardized in the historic preservation world by any stretch of the imagination, but generally, the standing seams are about 16 to 18 inches wide. So we have an 18-inch width roll that we would run in between the seams, and then a 6-inch wide that we would come back over top of the seams. So you would get a 3-inch overlap, which is our recommendation for each side of things there, and create an overall fully reinforced membrane. So again, Savannah College of Art and Design is a perfect example of this. You can see them doing the alternating colors. And usually we do a concrete gray base coating, but they were doing this project down there at Savannah in July, and you can imagine the Georgia heat. So we actually alternated some of the colors of the coating that we put down here. So we gave them white base coating, and because it was white, it was reflective, and it gave them that little bit more open time to be able to get the fabric into it before things started to set up. They started work with the gray coating, and they were going like, "This, we can't do this. This is crazy. We're not gonna get the system down properly." So, well, you can wait till September, or you can do it. We can work with you guys, and we were able to change up the base coated color for the remainder of the project for them on that job.
So is that what that picture is showing?
Yeah, exactly. So where you see the white on there, you'll see them laying down. That's where they're doing the base coating side of things. The green was the final finish side of things. They actually did an intermediate coating of gray there. So again, each color they changed coats, and each color there too, we at our manufacturing place, we put different colored lids on the materials. So it gets very easy for the contractor or the homeowner to look at the product and go, okay, I've got a 5 of this, a 5 of that, and a 5 of that. I have to use up all of that on this project. This is a partially reinforced system. So St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Richmond, Virginia, their roof is in pretty good shape, but they're having a lot of leaking at all of these standing seams. So what you can see them doing here, and not only the standing seams, but also this built-in gutter on the outside edge detail. So what you can see the gentleman up there right now doing is, and you can see kind of behind him, he's stripping in all of the seams on this metal roof with a 6-inch wide fabric. So the middle of the metal panel is actually in pretty good shape. And most of the time in the middle of the metal panel, you're not going to have to worry about doing a full fabric system, unless you've got issues with what we just talked about before, with chipping, paint, and whatnot. Or at Savannah College of Art and Design, where that building literally, the metal was wearing through in some areas because how old it was. So if you have thin metal, then we do recommend going that aspect. But here, they're able to do the reinforcement around some of these rooftop units, the air conditioning, air handling unit there, as well as all the seams. Then they were able to come back over top of that and do just the coatings to tie the whole roof together, both from a waterproofing standpoint, but then as an aesthetic standpoint.
Was that a fairly new roof? I see it's got a ridge.
It was not quite I want to call it super historic roof that was from like the 1800s or early 1900s. I think it was probably from like the 40s or 50s there in that avenue. My father Scott worked on that project, so he would know a little bit more of those details. But yeah, you do pointing it out does kind of date that a little bit more so, more recent than older one. So.
Did your company do the work, or do you just?
No, so we just manufacture the materials.
Okay, so then do you have people that know how to that you can recommend that know how to do?
Yes, we do, and if we go a couple things, because there's a couple more presentations here, or a couple more slides in this, and we'll kind of try and go through them here for you guys. But we do a lot with contractors, but we also do a lot with DIY people. So there are some situations where people want to do the work themselves. And especially in the historic preservation side, I understand that aspect of things. And roofing is one of those ones that unless you're well confident, I do not recommend anybody get on a ladder or roof without proper conditions and fall protection and all that kind of stuff. But there are situations where people want to do it themselves, but otherwise, if you have a particular project on which you're working and you need an applicator, you can certainly reach out to me or to our company, and we'll be able to put you in touch with a group of people that should be able to help you out there. Exactly. Or the third side of that is when we get this call as well, because a lot of people with historic buildings, they may have their painter of choice or roofer of choice that they've worked with in the past that they're like, this is my guy. I don't want to work with anybody else. This is my guy because I trust him. And I'm going through.
To know how to do this.
Exactly. I'm going through that right now with a bunch of contractors working at my house, and I've got my guy, and I've got my guy that's doing work that is driving me nuts because he's never showing up. And my other guy he's legit. He's good. So future work will all be going to that one. No more work will be going to this other guy over here. So in that situation, we'll work with a new applicator, and that's how we add to our contractor network as well. In that capacity, trying to find the good historic preservation people. And sometimes also the local historic society has recommendations as well. So I'm not sure if you guys keep a bank of.
Do you have some kind of formal certification program for
contractors? We do, and we can certainly come out and train people depending upon the size and whatnot of the project. I mean, we are based in the immediate Pennsylvania area, but as you can see, I traveled down here from Philadelphia this morning. We do have another one of our sales reps. His grandfather lives in West Virginia, so we're in and through this area on a pretty regular basis. I stopped out at a project 2 years ago in Charlestown, in the center of town, that they did to go over the project with the applicator before the job startup. So we are involved in coming out and training people. But anymore, and again, we've had this conversation earlier about technology. It's good when it works, but we do a lot of stuff digitally. We have YouTube videos up with great installation guidelines, and we're only a phone call away. So.
Flip the slide.
Yeah, so coatings only systems. This is a perfect application of just coating. So this is an Asphalt Roof, and we talked a little bit about Philadelphia. They're kind of the poster child for these low-rise row homes. But you see them also in historic towns like this in the downtown center. You have a lot of flat roofing. These coating systems, whether it be the partial systems or coatings only, lend themselves exceptionally well to protecting asphalt. Asphalt's a great roofing material, except it's very susceptible to UV attack. If you put a product like ours over top of it, in my opinion, asphalt's one of the best materials that's out there for roofing. It's strong, it's durable, it can be walked on a regular basis. It's not like the new single plies that are being manufactured out there nowadays. Multiple plies, and then you put a coating system like ours over top of it that acts as basically the sunscreen and keeps it protected over time. It's one of the best roofing materials that's out there. So this is a project we worked on with the city of Philadelphia, and we've done a couple pilot scale programs like this. Code about 100 homes in totality between the two that I've been involved with. And they're low-income houses where they're looking to change the roof color from black to white to provide energy savings and cooling, because most of these places do not have air conditioning. And in Philadelphia, those temperatures in those buildings can get up on the second floor 100, 110 degrees when you have heat waves coming through. So, yeah, it's a great coatings type of system there in that avenue.
And it moves with the asphalt?
Yep, absolutely. So again, this gets back to your question here a little bit before. Okay, can I do this work myself, or do I need to go and talk to a contractor? I mean, I always say there's certain times, and this is a DIY project in my opinion, flat, low-sloped roof that you can probably walk on. Over here you can see we've actually got a contractor that's got a lift because the roof is pitched too much for them to either do that work effectively from a ladder, or they would have to scaffold the building to really get up there and do that, and a lift was a less expensive option there. So whenever you're doing this, think, again, first and foremost, safety. But then afterwards, start considering things like size, scope, heights, all those kinds of things. But we can work in either, or I guess all three of those manners, with a applicator that we can put you in touch with, an applicator that you guys bring to the table, or as in a DIY capacity as well. So when we're doing the actual application, again, prep is a big thing. These are a couple different methodologies. At minimum, you're generally going to be power washing the surface, but depending upon the existing coating system, you may be getting more involved in terms of cleaning off the surface. You can see them doing some abrasive blasting that was actually being done with walnut shells as opposed to sand, so it doesn't damage the underlying metal. And then you can also, more generally, you're going to see people power tool and hand tool cleaning a surface. But in general, at bare minimum, you're going to be washing the surface. But when we talk about prep of coatings, especially with historic preservation projects, be conscious of lead-based paint. EPA has a great resource on what you need to do, and all the applicators that are out there anymore that are dealing with this need to make sure that they're certified in lead-based paint, or before they can do this. I think it's disturbed 6 square feet of paint. But yeah, so it's one of those things to be cognizant of, because a lot of lead-based paint was used for roofing in the past. So depending upon the surface, we have lots of different primers that are out there. We have some metal primers that are designed for corrosion control. So you definitely need to take off loose materials, whether it be rust or whether that be old paint. But generally after that, you can do what they're doing here, and basically taking this metal that's got tightly adhered rust and priming it with one of our rust inhibitive primers. We also have different primers for asphalt. If you have other building materials like concrete, single ply surfaces, depends on the material, but primers are a key component. They're not a substitute for good prep work. They can help you out, they can kind of bail you out if for some reason something was substandard, but they're not a substitute for good prep work. It will eventually come back to bite you if you don't have the prep work done properly. So. And this shows actually the installation of some of the fabric. So again, the bottom left one is at Savannah College of Art and Design, where again you guys see it's again a contractor project where they're all tethered off and everything, but they're laying down the base coating. And you can see our larger size fabrics being done on the upper one side there, and then this is a smaller one where they're actually doing the fabric into a built-in gutter system with that bright green as the finish coating. So they've already done the finish coating up on the metal roof, and now they're doing the fabric within the side of things. So different cut fabrics for different size projects. After the fabric is done on the primary side of things, then you really want to address your flashing details, transitions, so on and so forth. This one up here, this low-sloped metal roof into a flat asphalt roof, and you're asking about, can the coatings keep up with different things? A little bit there with asphalt. This is a great example of this. This is up in Vermont. This is on a commercial roof, but I love to show this picture because it's probably the worst construction detail that I've ever seen in my life. You had a low-sloped asphalt roof, basically flat, and then a very low-sloped metal roof that tied into that. And in Vermont, you can imagine during the wintertime, a snow load would build up right at that differential there. And not to mention that they probably had differentials in insulation, so they had different melting characteristics. But come springtime, you'd have an ice dam there that would basically back up underneath the building. And they weren't just getting water in there, they were getting ice to flow back up underneath that metal roof. So we were able to span this differential here with our coatings and the fabric, and take a liquid or linear polyester fabric and completely conform that to that differential surface and make that entirely waterproof. Now the neat one about that project is not only that side of things, but right after they did this, they had record, this is up in northern Vermont in one of the valleys up there, and all the cold air likes to sink down into that valley. They had record low temperatures into the -35, -40 degree Fahrenheit range. And the coatings were able to survive that in that winter, and our project's pushing 10 years old at this point. So, very impressive project there in that avenue. Again, spanning differential side of things, this is another product that we have beyond the fabric. I'll actually pass a sample of that around right now. We have some of it in this off-white and then some of this in gray. What's nice about this product, this is a great repair material. And this is what I'm passing around to you right now, that's one coat. So you're able, it's a thicker body mastic that you're able to...
Would you use this around dormers also?
Yeah, absolutely. You can certainly use this around dormers to keep them watertight. There's a postcard over here on the table that shows the Thomas Point Lighthouse. And they did this at all the dormers to tie all that kind of stuff in. and basically make it watertight there in that avenue.
So they didn't even point that up?
They didn't even point that up. This contractor is down in Southern Virginia, and he's working on this roof, and I'd supplied him a gallon of this 315 is what it's called, as not a test site of thing, but any projects I'm usually recommending about a gallon of it because it's very useful at patching and repairing some small areas here and there. And he's out there and he's like, I opened up this chimney tie-in because it was not what I usually like to see. He's like, I opened a can of worms that I was like, I'm done for this project. It's 3 hours from the nearest Home Depot or Lowe's. I can't like get in there, and it's like forever and a day for me to get to this project site. And luckily, he called me, and he's like, I had a gallon of this product, and he's like, it bailed me out on this job. And it's a very neat product. It's not the perfect way to do that. Ideally, you would like to point that and put in proper flashing. But basically, I was able to do that tie-in completely with our products and a little bit of the fabric, and then paint it up afterwards to make it look like there was true new metal flashing that was installed there. Completely waterproof now, and able to span that differential between the masonry and then the metal roof.
So it's like a paste almost.
Yeah, so it's a thick. This product is it's a thicker body material. If you look at those things, you'll actually see the Kevlar fibers that are in that product. So we take Kevlar, grind down Kevlar, and infuse that into one of our elastomeric coatings.
And that's 315.
Yeah, that's our AF 315 in that product. So.
I remember that one.
Yeah, it's a very. It's a great product, and people use it for other things beyond just roofing applications. But it really lends itself very well for that.
Well, it's no flashing. They just use
They just painted it. Yeah, so they took painter's tape and put it along that side of there and just painted it afterwards to make it look like there was flashing.
What adheres it to the base material, especially on the roof?
So if you can imagine, again, we talked about our paints are typically applied somewhere around 1 to 3 or 4 mils. Our coatings are going to get applied at a minimum around 16 mils of wet coating thickness on there. So they're very thick bodied to begin with. So we do this on vertical surfaces on a regular basis, and the product's not going to run off of that material. We get that question a lot. It's like, oh, is your product just going to run or roll off the roof surface? It's like, no, it's a thicker bodied material that if you apply it within our application rates, I mean, if you glob it on there and pour it on the surface, yeah, it'll flow for sure. But you've got to really get higher than our application rate for it to not roll off that surface.
So the HP1 system, if you had flashing on that chimney, would you just use that fabric going up, or would you switch to a heavier fabric to do the flashing around the chimneys?
You can, in those situations, you generally would want to keep it in the true roofing style and tuck your coating system up and underneath of that metal flashing. Allow that metal flashing to work the way that it normally does. But yeah, you'd want to run the fabric right up and underneath there. This product here is a liquid coating, so it's not like a better or a thicker fabric by any stretch of the imagination. But you could use this in tandem with the fabric at those difficult to do transitions.
But if you have flashing and they tried to patch it with asphalt product.
Right.
They seal the metal up.
Okay.
So you would use the fabric on the HP1 and just go up?
Yeah, you could go up and underneath of that, or if they've already tried to patch it and it's really not working the way it was truly designed to, you could theoretically, depending upon how that construction works exactly, you could theoretically just reinforce the entire area there in that avenue. Right. In best case scenario, it'd be best to take that off and run it there and do it properly. That's the way I'm always going to tell you to do it. Right. But there's always times where people are just going, okay, it works the way that it is, sort of. Let me make this finally waterproof by just tying the whole system in there together. So you could do it, in theory, you could do it both ways. I'm going to always tell you to do it the best, most construction-related avenue is your best bet. Because there's other things that are at play within that. I mean, that's just a small chimney, but generally flashing is there because it's, you could have dew points within that masonry that is trying to kick water out and so on and so forth. So if it's a larger wall or something like that, you may need to pay more attention to how that construction detail was designed to work originally. So, but if you have any of these questions like that are very specific, if you have a project that you're looking at and need input on it, the best thing I can say is if you can get some digital pictures of how it looks. And in this day and age with cell phones, like you can either text it to my cell phone or email it to me, and we can say, hey, this is how we have seen this been done in the past effectively with our coatings. Run the coatings to this point, with the fabric, and then extend the coatings beyond with themselves beyond there, and you'll be good to go. Or work with whatever applicator is doing the work there to make that be the case. So again, they can be applied in so many different ways: brush, roll, or spray. If you're using brush, high quality brushes apply better than the cheap foam rollers or foam brushes by any stretch of the imagination. But the quality of the brush really does play into how you can apply the coatings for sure. Roller, we do recommend a 3/4 inch nap, excuse me, that looks like a 1/4 inch, but 3/4 inch nap plus, so a very thick bodied nap to be able to apply the coatings at these recommended application rates. And then spray, we're going to recommend airless spray for sure, because they are very thick bodied coatings. Air powered spray is generally not going to move these coatings around. And then that's our general application rate, but again, if you have a specific project, we can give you full recommendations on how to apply the coatings and which way to do them there on that avenue. So.
Your products, are they manufactured in Baltimore? Is that the same company?
We manufacture in Media, Pennsylvania. Yeah. So we've done a lot of work down in the Baltimore area.
You haven't distributed it. I bought stuff from someplace in Baltimore, and I thought it was your stuff.
Maybe. We've worked with McCormick Paints in the past, so if you're familiar with them. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've worked with McCormick Paints in the past sometimes, so. And again, maintenance of these coatings. Really, we recommend an inspection every two per year. Basically, check your project. Any building side of things, you really want to check it after the winter, and then before your winter, so you can repair it either going into winter or repair it after something has happened over the winter time. Our coatings are water based, so you can apply them generally in this area from, I'd say, late November, early December until about I'd say late March, early April. That's our recommendation. At minimum, you want to do it once per year. And this is just general, again, roofing maintenance. It's doing a checklist of where problems were in the past, all those kinds of details of the project. Because that's where roofs leak. They don't usually leak in the middle of the metal roof or middle there. They leak at the seams, the perimeter, the details. Look at all those penetrations that are through your roof. And then with our coating systems, there should be little to no maintenance unless something gets damaged. We design systems that are going to last anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 years is what we'll say. Most people take a look at it after 5, 10, or 15 years and go, it still looks pretty good. I'm going to push it another year or two before I have to recoat it. Now, you don't want to let that go too far because otherwise then you can get below our minimum thresholds for mill thicknesses. And if you get below that, that's when the coatings they're not going to have their true performance properties. If you take like a 5-year system and push it to year 10, you're probably going to be doing a lot more repair work before you just simply power wash and recoat it from there.
Your last slide you were talking about, it said 2 coats per 100 square feet.
Yes.
Now, would that be, if we were talking like the HP1 where you're putting the mesh down?
So that is, the HP1 system is actually going to be 5 gallons per every 100 square feet on an overall basis. The HP3 system, which is the other end of the spectrum, the HP1 is like the top of the line side of things. HP3 is kind of the minimum systems that we would do, and that's going to be the 2 coats, 2 gallons per every 100 square feet applied there.
Is that going to be the 5-year?
Yes, that'll be around 5 years.
And the high end is 15?
Yeah, that would generally be, when we do 2 coats on top of that HP1 system, that's a 10-year. If we were to do 3 coats, that would be 15 years there.
So that's your 5 coats, 5 gallons.
It's technically 4 coats. It's 3 steps because you're laying down the base coating, rolling the fabric out into it, saturating. That's all one. It's 2 coats, but it's one process, right. And then 2 finished coats over top of there. So it's three overall coats that get put down there.
So the HP3 is 1 primer coat and then 1 finish coat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the minimum that we would recommend there in that avenue.
Do you use the primer to put the fabric in, or your final stuff to put the fabric in?
We'll call it a base coating. Some people, when we talk to people, will think of it more of as primer.
Okay.
I will always call it a base coating.
Okay.
We do have separate primers, though, if you have like an issue on the roof, like corrosion or oxidation beyond there and that side of things. So it depends on the overall job, exactly what you're looking at. But the minimum system that we'll do is a base coat and a finish coat. And that would be a gallon per every 100 square feet per coat, so 2 gallons total for every 100 square feet. The full fabric, though, on the other side again is 5 gallons.
5 gallons.
3 gallons to lay down the base coating and fabric. You're going to put down an initial amount and then saturate over top for a total of 3 gallons going down there, and then 2 coats on top of that to give you that overall side thing. So yeah, it's a hefty overall coating system for sure.
Have to rebuild your roof.
Yeah, but I mean, in a lot of ways, it's much more effective than trying to tear these roofs off,
right.
And that's kind of where it leads us into some of these projects here and down in Cape May, New Jersey. So we'll take a look at this next one here. This is the mainstay. This is a great project that we worked on with Tom Carroll. He's a former mainstay owner, and now he's kind of the, I'll say, Ed's counterpart at Mid-Atlantic Center for Art and Design down in Cape May, New Jersey. And they do a lot for historic preservation. They're basically the Historic Preservation Society down there, and there's been a lot of work done within that organization to keep and maintain roofs like this. So again, this system, they got quotes of several $100,000s to tear off this metal roof and put down a brand new metal roof. They were able to save this metal roof for a fraction of that cost. And if you took this metal roof off of this building, you now have an old building with a new roof on it, and you lose a lot of the historic character of that building. So Tom's been involved here again, and when he owned the mainstay is when we originally did that work back in the early 1990s. And then he was also involved in the next project at the Elman Physics Estate.
Which product did he use? The HP1 or?
So they did the HP1 system there, and then what they've done over the last 20 years is just simply maintain them with finish coats there. Again, I think that says original install 97. I forget, it might be 96, but it was somewhere in those mid to late 90s.
When you're on the ground looking at, say, something like this with the HP1 with the mesh, can you tell there's something been added or?
Nope. Yeah,
I mean on the seams. I mean, yeah.
Once you, there's when you do these installations, there's it takes a craftsman to make sure they get it down properly. So that if you have somebody that does not do it correctly, you could potentially see some of those things. But if you take your time with it, which most of the applicators that we work with, and make sure you don't get any wrinkles in the fabric and things of that nature, you won't know that there's. That one there, I know it's a digital picture and there, but I could get you pictures from today that were taken up next to it, and you're not going to see the differential in the fabric there. Because again, I'm saying like paint goes down at somewhere around 4 mils-ish, 5 mils-ish, plus or minus a little bit. And we're 45, so we're, 9 times the thickness of actual paint. We're still only 45 hair lengths thicker than the actual metal there in that avenue. So it's not like we're putting a new membrane over top of here that's going to have wrinkles and so on and so forth. The fluid applied nature of these coatings lend themselves so well to conforming to unique surfaces. So on this roof, you see all the tie-ins and the dormers to these metal roofs here where you got this overhang and this pitch into that. You're able to tie those in completely such that you don't see those issues going on from there. So it's a pretty, like I said, it still amazes me to this day because I can go up there and pick out the seams, but when I'm doing a final inspection, even on a full flat seam metal roof, and I know that they're 40 inches apart, I've got to walk it out 40 inches and go, okay, there it is, and make sure I then walk that the course of the roof, and if they start and stop a roll and switch over to a different roll, I've got to pay attention real closely to make sure that they did that. Now, I can walk it and just go across and go, okay, that's good, but I'm pretty particular when we're offering long-term warranties. So
it's a lot safer than getting up on a roof, tearing it all off, and then putting a new roof on. I mean,
that
structurally, it's a lot, because you can really do a lot of damage on tearing off an old roof.
For sure, and you can open up a can of worms, which I know I just did at my house right now, which is always an adventure. This one I love to show because this is the Inn of Cape May, right up against the water there in Cape May, New Jersey, and I can't tell you how many metal roofs I see. Well, not just metal roofs, historic roofs like this that are just patched 6 different ways from Sunday. And what we were able to do here in this situation, this is where we talked a little bit earlier about spanning issues. Yeah, they power wash that, they clean that off, but there's no way they're going to be able to remove all that without damaging the underlying metal roof. So what they did, again, this is a full fabric system that they did over top of this surface. And you can, again, see the proximity of this to the ocean. That's another one that you'll go up in there and you would never be able to tell unless you are on the roof, on your hands and knees going, okay, there's a seam, there's a seam. You can sit on the porch of that roof and look up at it and not even know that there was a fabric system installed in there. The only detrimental thing that they didn't do here is they didn't replace their downspouts and gutter systems when they did the system, and they were rusting on the inside, so a little bit of corrosion is coming out on and staining the coating. But other than that, the coating system saved that metal roof from being torn off.
Are you going to talk about costs compared to regular painting?
I can certainly do that. I was generally keeping, I can certainly do that for sure. So in terms of like the HP1 system, I'll talk about first. Material-wise, that's generally going to run you somewhere around $2 to $2.50 a square foot in terms of materials. And there's not really a direct comparison to actual painting there in that avenue. Whereas the HP3 system, which is the partially reinforced, or excuse me, the coatings only system, is going to be somewhere between 50 cents and $1 per square foot, depending upon what color you select, whether you're a primer, so on and so forth. And that's actually pretty comparable to what painting would cost you. The cost of materials is going to be somewhere around, per gallon, is going to be somewhere around $45 to $60, depending upon which product you have there. And if you go to Home Depot, even Home Depot and Lowe's compared to Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams, they're all going to be around that cost in terms of that side of things. I mean, you go buy, I was at Home Depot and I was trying to buy some like bathroom paint. I was like, it's like $100 plus for bathroom paint. I'm going, I'm in the business, and I don't know what they're putting in that to make it $100 plus for that side effects.
And does it come in black?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have about 15 standard colors, and unlike most paints that get tinted to the colors that they're looking to do, we are, thank you for coming. We dry grind all of our own pigments, so we start from scratch with all of our products. So we don't tint anything to get to those colors, so that way you don't end up with a red roof that goes to pink over time. It stays red as it ages. And black stays truly black. They really do hold their colors over time because of that aspect.
The color is all the way through?
What was that?
And the color is all the way through the material, it's not like a layer of...
Yeah, exactly. Well, so that's the one thing we do. We do alter the colors between coats, just so you can see where things are differentials.
Thank you. I'm going to call you.
Okay, yeah, nice to meet
I got
you.
a group of ladies meeting at my house.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Did you bring colors? A color
Yes,
chart?
there are a couple color charts, and if but not on the table here, I'll grab them out of the my binder there in the back. So, yep.
Eric, I had a question with whether this work meets the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. And I called, I had seen on your website that you work with the National Park Service on these things, but for those of us who are working on tax credit projects with Virginia, with the Department of Historic Resources, I talked to them, and they're not keen on this product because they see it as a substitute material and that's why I came, because I wanted more information so that I could lobby them to change it, because certainly having 25% of tax credit for it if they were to accept it, but their main concerns were that this is in many ways no different than vinyl siding. You're putting something over the original material, not allowing the original material to do what it was originally. And please don't shoot that message.
No.
And then that it would change the profile of the turned metal roof, and that, as with any case, like if they'd even considered like changing windows, you have to prove that there's no other way. There's no way to repair it. When you said patching was no longer an option. I don't really know what that means. I mean, could it be, looks like there are places they could patch it more. I don't know.
Right.
So, I think on one hand, their, property owners just don't want to hassle with painting their roof, and not having paints adhere to their metal roofs, which seems to be the major problem these days, because they don't make paint like they used to. But on the other hand, it's nice to be able to do something to your house that then, if you were doing a tax credit project, or at least you could say you're meeting the Secretary of Interior standards, and that's kind of, you know, what preservation groups want to put forth out to the community as opposed to, you know, something that doesn't meet those standards. So I didn't know if you have ever talked to them down there, to the tax credit people?
I have not.
And if not, you really should make a presentation to them, because right now they're, you know, they're like, well, we really haven't heard about that particular product, but generally speaking, we wouldn't accept something like that.
Okay. Do you have any contacts with those side of things? Maybe we can chat a little bit afterwards, and if you have those contacts, I would be glad to be involved with you if it's within your project, and then on an overall basis, because we've talked to multiple historic organizations, whether it be MAC, whether it be what we're doing here in Winchester, but also on the state level too, specifically down in North Carolina, the city of Baltimore, a couple places of note like that have accepted this, have looked at this. Countless people I've worked with at the National Park Service that, again, they do always raise the concern about, and their biggest concern is about reversibility and things of that nature.
Exactly, and then, you know, all the things that it's like with any sort of substitute material that you put in, and just historic character, you know, they're purists when it comes to that.
And that's where
sometimes it's not the most practical thing, but, you know, those of us who are trying to get things improved by Department of Historic Resources have to work
through that.
Yeah, you know, it would almost be like using a fabric inside to repair a plaster wall inside a house.
Well, that is
which essentially you're adding a fabric, you know, I mean, it's kind of a
But they allow that if you do it in patches, you know what I mean? But they wouldn't want like a whole thing, because it does take the corners out.
Yeah, but I mean, you can do it though, so that's, I mean, that's what this essentially is. I've used this stuff.
When you say, what do you mean, George, when you say you can do it? You can do it.
I'm saying, when they're repairing plaster wall, they can do the whole, you know, if it's really kind of crumbly, but not completely falling apart. You can put fabric above it and then replaster on top of that. And it's meant to hold the whole thing together, which is essentially what this is. It's a similar thing. And when you do it right, it shouldn't really change the profile that much. It's just the only difference is that little piece of fabric.
You're talking interior and not exterior.
But still.
Well, interior doesn't matter if it's exterior or interior, because you're still getting tax credits.
Yeah.
And I've had projects denied where they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
They instead want, you know, to use those special nails that pushes the plaster in with the washer, and then you just do a very thin skim coat, because they just don't want it. And again, don't shoot the messenger here. But they don't want to change the proportions of the room, even though it's a minuscule thing, or the relationship between the reveal of the window and door trim. So, but anyway, that's you know.
Well, I would be glad to have a conversation either via email or a conference call. We've done that on a regular basis with them.
And they come up to, you know, and when they responded that way, I said, well, look, you know, they've done it on National Park Service projects, and you're supposed to follow the same standards as the Park Service. And they said, well, those are probably extenuating circumstances. So I don't know what.
Look at the Taylor Hotel.
I mean, eventually it comes down to how do you preserve a building? I mean, if you're trying to preserve it, and the other option is to replace the metal roof or to scrape it enough that you destroy the building, let it collapse. Then, you know,
well, I mean,
what do we do here? We're trying to make the buildings last, and before all the rules happened, and the tax credits, people just went up there and did what they had to do to preserve it. And they lasted a few hundred years. So.
I mean, they've been painting. My argument, one of my arguments with them would be, metal roofs have been painted since their inception. The technologies have changed. The purpose and the design of that purpose hasn't changed. It's there to protect the metal from corrosion and protect that metal from degrading over time. So I've got countless types of references going back to how to fix a leaky roof with like basically solder and oil and lead based coatings from way back in 1885, and that's where
they would agree with that. And they would say, you know, people would stucco buildings in the 1930s as a way to preserve the exterior. That was the vinyl siding of the
They did whatever they had
Yeah.
to work
Right,
with.
but with these, you know, and I mean, it does, for a Perry homeowner who's
Right.
not going to do maybe the tax credits or whatever, it doesn't really
doesn't really
matter.
apply. Yeah, no, I get where
But
you're
in a
coming
lot
from.
of projects, you know, with a cost involved in this,
Yeah.
and you only have to spend 25% of the assessed value of your house to get 25% of the money as a tax credit.
Yeah, it's
You know, they
huge.
start thinking, well, you know, we'll do the roof and maybe we'll update the wiring, and they've met that threshold.
Right.
And so then it becomes really important to ensure that that work is meeting the standards, you know,
Yeah.
Department of Historic Resources.
Yeah.
This Cape May, these projects in Cape May pass muster for tax credits?
I would have to double check on that. I'm not sure, but I chat with Tom probably at least twice a year now. So he's since moved on from what his he sold the mainstay. He's less involved with Mac, but my dad and I are friendly with him. So I'll next time I see him, which may be in the next couple weeks, I will ask him that question. I'll drop him an email after this and see what he did when he originally was doing those projects. But yeah, it's a great question, and I'd be happy to be involved with any of those
I think it would
conversations.
be, it would behoove you.
All of these
Yeah.
agencies are struggling with this problem of substitute materials
Right.
and being able to use new materials which still answer the basic premise that
Right.
we're trying to, you know, keep the building fabric preserved without having to really replace
But
it.
think about the historic ones, you got the compliance with asbestos, tile, lead paint, and all that to remove, which that's an extenuating cost too. So yeah, they did that back then, but we're not replacing it. I mean, you go back and forth on that.
Yeah, the whole industry is really struggling with that issue.
And again, a couple more places down in Cape May that we've worked on. The one on the lower left-hand side is the building that my dad had the bright idea for preservation products on. That was my grandparents' old place. But they definitely use the coatings pretty much everywhere around that town, from doing the ones that you see right there on the beach to the preservation of these metal roofs to, if you've ever been to the town, you've seen the seawall, they've actually used some of the coatings to protect that. So. And again, we have different sized products, but we sell everything. We stock everything in 1 gallon pails and 5 gallon pails, but can certainly do stuff in larger containers, and then different sized fabrics depending upon your project that you're working on there. So, cool. I know we're running a little bit later in terms of time here, but if you guys are apt to hang out, these are some of the other technologies that I'll kind of run through a little quickly. And I'll pass some of this around right now. This is actually a sample of a coating. You can kind of see the gold effect that we were able to do on cornice work and steeple work. So if you're working at a church or a religious organization, or sometimes universities like this, you'll see what they did up there at the museum up in Lille, Maine, where they did the gold metallic effect. We also do concrete floor work like we have done at our own building. That's a shot of our place. We had a conversation earlier that the building that we're in is from 1915. It was an old slaughterhouse back in the early 1900s, and they used to make scrapple there, great Philadelphia delicacy. We've basically taken over that place and been there longer than the original occupants, and slowly but surely restoring this building to its previous glory. We're adding employees, increasing our footprint, actually adding about a 3,500 square foot addition this coming fall. And I like to point out all the red windows there, big windows, just like you see in this side of things. And we always had it back up until we started working with the acrylics there. Difficulty in keeping paint on those wood surfaces. What we were able to do is use the acrylics as a base layer to give them waterproofing characteristics to keep the water out of the wood, and then use whatever acrylic top coating that you so choose over top of it, so you're able to do that on top of the woods there. So
You wouldn't use oil on top of it, would you?
you could, but 100% acrylic would be my
Excuse me, I'd like one contact.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yep, thank you. Cool. And then that kind of wraps up. There's a couple more slides here on presentations, but we're running pretty late here. So this is a couple other jobs that we've done. This is the Baltimore Harbor Power Plants. We did all of the smokestacks there with our coatings and actually top coated them with one of our Kynar coatings for bright color retention. And we can go to the next one here too. I just kind of run through some of these stuff from sides and stuff. So beyond the roof coatings, we certainly do wall coatings. This is the old house project that we worked on. This old house project that we worked on in East Boston. Did a whole stucco project with them. Same thing at the Buddhist temple in Ben Salem, Pennsylvania. You can see them putting the white coating on there. And then go from there. This is a neat project at Fort Moultrie. We also did Fort Sumter down in Charleston, South Carolina. But if you go to the next slide, you'll actually see the overall finish. What you saw there was us evaluating a couple different styles of fabric for the overall finish. And they did all the gun encasements there at Fort Sumter and Fort Moultrie, which is just across the harbor. And that kind of wraps up the overall presentation. So, like I said, I really appreciate your guys' time here today. And I know a couple people always duck early because I'm very verbose, but yeah, I appreciate your guys' time and effort and all that good stuff. Great to see people like yourself doing the historic preservation work.
Do you have any companies that you recommend?
I'd have to go back and look at our contractor database. We do have people that have worked in this general area. But if you have more details about your particular project, and leave your contact information, I can put you in touch with the right people to be able to help you guys with your projects.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Yes, thank you guys.
This was by far, I think, the most technical presentation we've ever
Nice
had.
to meet you.
But it was tremendously informative, and I hope it's helpful to
Nice to meet
folks
you.
who have some issues with your own properties, and that was the intent. I think we met that goal.